TV7 Israel News is made possible thanks to your generous donations. Shalom, good evening. This is TV7 Israel News broadcast to you from Jerusalem. And in today's top stories, Jerusalem is gearing up for the International Holocaust Remembrance Day, during which for the first time in Israeli history, more than 40 world leaders will gather in the city to mark the 75th anniversary of the liberation of the Nazi concentration camp, Auschwitz Birkenau. A new Israeli study by the National Security Index, in cooperation with the Institute for National Security Studies, found that the Israeli public supports continued military action against Iran. Iranian Foreign Minister Mohammad Zarif levels a threat toward Europe, in which he underscores that unless it alters what he referred to as their improper behavior or sends Iran's nuclear portfolio to the Security Council, the Islamic Republic will withdraw from the Non-Proliferation Treaty. Jerusalem is gearing up for the International Holocaust Remembrance Day, during which for the first time in Israeli history, more than 40 world leaders will gather in the city to mark the 75th anniversary of the liberation of the Nazi concentration camp, Auschwitz Birkenau. Addressing the upcoming event, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu noted during his weekly cabinet meeting that he's scheduled to hold separate talks with many of the visiting leaders. Netanyahu further highlighted that he is expected to seize the opportunity to discuss the challenges posed by the Islamic Republic of Iran, among other pressing regional and bilateral matters.
אנחנו נקבל השבוע את פניהם של מנהיגים רבים שבאים מרחבי העולם. הם באים לירושלים כדי להשתתף באירועים לציון 75 שנים לשחרור אושוויץ. בין היתר אני אפגש עם סגן נשיא ארצות הברית מייק פנס, עם נשיא רוסיה ולדימיר פוטין ועם נשיא צרפת עמנואל מקרון, גם עם מנהיגים נוספים. אני אדון עמם על איראן, על התפתחויות שונות באזור ועל חיזוק היחסים בין המדינות.
The Israeli leader also underscored the unprecedented achievements that were made since the Jewish people left the death pits of the Holocaust and founded a state.
ב-75 השנים הללו, מאז שחרור אושוויץ, עמנו עבר דרך ארוכה מאוד. אנחנו יצאנו מבורות המוות, הקמנו את מדינתנו, הבאנו אותה לעשור הטוב ביותר בתולדותיה, ואנו מצעידים אותה להישגים חסרי תקדים נוספים. אבל כמובן שבכל המסע הארוך הזה, לעולם לא נשכח את אחינו ואחיותינו שנספו באש השואה. בשמם ולזכרם אנו פועלים להבטיח את נצח ישראל.
It is interesting to know that among the world leaders to attend the international event in Jerusalem, in addition to those mentioned by the Israeli Prime Minister, are the respective monarchs, presidents, premiers, and governor-generals of Finland, Sweden, Norway, Romania, the Netherlands, Germany, Canada, Australia, and Ukraine, among numerous others. Turning now to Israel's southern front with the Gaza Strip, where the Islamist Hamas has reportedly refused to grant Egyptian mediators additional time to ensure the implementation of understandings that were reached vis-à-vis a truce arrangement between the Jewish state and the coastal Palestinian populated enclave. The arrangement includes a series of economic building measures to help alleviate the presiding humanitarian distress in the jihadist-plagued territory in exchange for an end to all terror-related hostilities that emanate from the Hamas-controlled Strip toward the Jewish state. While the implementation's progress indicates a seemingly positive trend, Hamas has recently alleged that Israel has deliberately delayed implementing several important clauses of the truce arrangement. As a Hamas-orchestrated consequence, Palestinian Islamists resumed the launch of explosive balloons over the border into Israeli territory. A Hamas official told TV7 that the number of so-called terror balloons will grow until Israel fulfills its agreed-upon obligations. Meanwhile, dozens of explosive balloons were flown into Israel over the weekend. Nevertheless, thankfully, no injuries or damage were reported. Turning now to Israel's northern front with Lebanon, where the IDF has begun to deploy technological infrastructure that will allow the Israeli military to detect and identify hostile underground construction activities along the border. According to the IDF spokesperson's unit, the infrastructure is based on unique technology, which was tailored to the features of the terrain on Israel's northern border and is designed to track what happens underground as a preventative measure. It further noted that approximately a year ago, during Operation Northern Shield, the IDF exposed and neutralized 6 cross-border attack tunnels which had been excavated by the Hezbollah terror organization. In light of that discovery, which deprived Hezbollah of a unique offensive capability, the Israeli military developed tools to thwart its neighboring enemies from utilizing subterranean tactics against the Jewish state. The IDF underscored, however, that its current working assumption is that there are no cross-border attack tunnels from Lebanon into Israeli territory. In tandem, the IDF Northern Command and the Galilee Division have continued to build a security barrier along the border, which is meant to impede attempts by Hezbollah militants to infiltrate Israeli territory in a future war. Now, in other news, Israel's National Security Index, which was conducted by the Israel Institute for National Security Studies, found that the Israeli public supports continued military action against Iran, even at the cost of precipitating a wide-scale war. The study found that 31% of the Israeli public believes that the northern arena poses the greatest threat to the Jewish state. Subsequently, 26% believe that the Iranian nuclear program is the main threat to Israel, and only 14% consider the Israeli-Palestinian conflict to be the primary security challenge. The study also found that 54% of the public believes that the Israeli home front is prepared for war, in contrast to the IDF's assessment, which believes that there is a substantial gap in preparing the home front for the next military conflict. The study corroborated the military's assessment, however, noting that 72% of the Israelis questioned admitted that they were not actively preparing for war. The study also found that 82% of Israelis agree with the statement that Israel can only rely on itself, while further revealing that 60% believe that the people of Israel are in fact God's chosen people. In contrast to previous studies, 50% of Israelis do not trust the United States to stand by Israel if it were attacked, as was the case for Saudi Arabia recently when the Islamic Republic of Iran attacked its Aramco oil installations. Turning now to Iran, where Iranian Foreign Minister Mohammad Zarif leveled a threat toward Europe, in which he underscored that unless it alters what he referred to as their improper behavior or sends Iran's nuclear file to the Security Council, the Islamic Republic will withdraw from the NPT, which is the acronym for the Non-Proliferation Treaty of Nuclear Weapons. The threat voiced by the top Iranian diplomat coincides with a statement by a spokesman who insisted that Tehran remained open to negotiations with world powers, excluding the United States. It is important to know that Minister Zarif's threat was voiced after his country's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, praised the Tehran regime for its harsh response against the European decision to trigger a dispute mechanism over Iranian breaches of its nuclear-related commitments.
کارهای دیگری که این رو هم عرض بکنیم یکی از کارهای دیگری که برای تحت شعاع قرار دادن این حوادث بزرگ انجام دادن همین کاری است که این سه دولت اروپایی کردن دولت خبیث انگلیس دولت فرانسه و دولت آلمان تهدید ایران که ما مسئله هسته‌ای رو بار دیگر به شورای امنیت میبریم که البته مسئولین کشور خوشبختانه پاسخ اینها رو دادند محکم جواب محکم به اینها داده شد این سه کشور همون سه کشوری هستند که در دوران جنگ تحمیلی به ما تا توانستند به صدام حسین کمک کردند.
Ayatollah Khamenei also seized the opportunity to try and ridicule Washington's voiced support for Iranians protesting against the tyrannical regime in Tehran.
سخنگویان دولت شریر آمریکا هی تکرار میکنن که ما در کنار مردم ایرانیم دروغ میگید اگر در کنار مردم ایران هم باشید برای این است که خنجر زهرآلود خود رو به سینه مردم ایران فرو کنید.
Meanwhile, in the American capital, the U.S. State Department Special Representative for Iran, Brian Hook, said that the United States is pleased to see its European partners more active against Iran's nuclear blackmail.
We were pleased to see the United Kingdom, France, and Germany initiate the Iran nuclear deal dispute resolution mechanism earlier this week. Prime Minister Johnson called to replace the Iran nuclear deal with a new deal, which we very much support. Yesterday, President Rouhani made veiled threats against European troops. Today, the Supreme Leader Khamenei lashed out against Europe for standing up to Iran's nuclear blackmail. As long as the regime threatens the world, it will become further isolated. Until Iran behaves like a normal nation, its isolation will only deepen.
The American Special Representative for Iran further announced a series of additional economic sanctions against, this time, IRGC Brigadier General Hassan Shavapour, who commands revolutionary units that killed at least 148 Iranian demonstrators to date. Thank you for watching us. You can also watch us at TV7Israelnews.com or TV7.fi. For any comments, please send your emails to israelnews@tv7.fi. And I would like to take this opportunity to thank all of our supporters, as your financial donations as well as your prayers are the reason TV7 Israel News is made possible. And I'd like to also continue encouraging you, pray for the peace of Jerusalem as well as the peace and salvation of Israel. I'm Jonathan Hassan. Have a Erev Tov and Shavua Tov. We will see you again tomorrow at the same time.